The moment Kai and Tan Songyun walked into that press room together, the entire atmosphere shifted. Cameras flashed, reporters gasped, and within seconds, social media exploded. For the first time in months, after weeks of speculation, rumors, and silence, the two stars finally appeared side by side, ready to speak, ready to face the truth. It had been one of the most talked about mysteries in Chinese entertainment. Kai, missing from the public eye for nearly 2 months, and Tan Songyun, whose cryptic social media posts had fueled endless theories, were finally in front of the cameras again. But this time, they weren't acting. There were no scripts, no rehearsed lines, just raw emotion and truth. When Kai stepped onto the stage first, dressed simply in a black suit, the room went silent. His usual confident aura was replaced by something softer, more human. Seconds later, Tan Songyun appeared beside him, wearing an elegant cream-colored outfit that reflected both grace and calm. They exchanged a brief glance that said everything words could not. The media had questions, thousands of them, but before anyone could speak, Kai reached for the microphone. His voice was steady, but his expression carried the weight of everything they had endured. "Thank you for being here," he began. "There have been many rumors, many misunderstandings. Today, we wanted to face all of it, together." That single word, together, was all it took to send fans online into a frenzy. Comments flooded Weibo, Twitter, and TikTok. "They said together," one fan posted. "Finally, no more guessing." Tan Songyun nodded gently before adding, "Sometimes silence isn't hiding, it's healing." These past months have been hard, but they also reminded us of what truly matters. Her calm tone contrasted the chaos outside the venue, where fans had gathered since dawn, holding banners and chanting their names. To many, it felt like watching two people who had gone through a storm finally find peace again. As reporters began to ask about Kai's disappearance, he took a deep breath. "I wasn't missing," he said softly. "I was lost, in a way. There was pressure, both personal and professional. I needed to step away before I broke." During that time, the only person who reached out was Songyun. The crowd gasped. Tan Songyun looked at him, visibly emotional. Kai continued. She didn't ask questions. She didn't push. She just listened. And that's what saved me. For a moment, the press room was completely silent. Then Tan Songyun spoke again, her voice trembling slightly. "We've both faced things that the public will never fully understand. But what matters is that we chose to stand here, not as actors in a drama, but as people who care deeply for each other." Reporters began throwing questions about their relationship, their future, their careers, but both handled it with honesty and grace. When one journalist asked directly, "Are you two in love?" Kai smiled faintly and said, "Love isn't something you announce. It's something you show." Tan Songyun added, "We've been through enough to know that what we have doesn't need validation. We're here because we want to share our truth, not to perform." That single line became the headline across media outlets within minutes. "We're here to share our truth, not to perform." It was bold, poetic, and emotional, the perfect soundbite for a story that had already captured millions. Later in the press conference, they addressed the rumors about their professional future. Kai revealed that they had been quietly working on a joint project before his disappearance, a film exploring themes of loss, forgiveness, and rediscovery. "Art imitates life," he said with a soft chuckle. "Maybe this project found us at the right time." Tan Songyun smiled, adding, "We didn't plan this comeback. But sometimes the universe does what it needs to." As the event drew to a close, both stars stood up, bowed to the press, and turned to face the crowd outside through the glass windows. Fans screamed their names, waving light boards and signs that read "Forever Kai Songyun." In that moment, Kai reached out his hand, and Tan Songyun took it. The cameras clicked in rapid succession, freezing the moment forever. That single gesture, simple, genuine, and filled with emotion, became the image that defined the day. Afterward, the internet went into complete meltdown. Within an hour, the hashtag Kai Tan Songyun press conference reached over 1 billion views. Clips from their appearance topped every trending chart. Fans from around the world flooded timelines with messages like "They're finally back," and "Real or not, that love is undeniable." Even fellow actors began commenting, many expressing admiration for their honesty and courage. One director posted, "This is what true strength looks like, not hiding behind PR, but standing in front of truth." But the story didn't end there. That night, Kai and Tan Songyun were spotted leaving the venue together, walking hand in hand through a crowd of flashing cameras. Despite the chaos, they didn't hide. Kai placed his jacket over her shoulders as they made their way to the car, and fans captured the moment from every angle. The clip went viral instantly, garnering millions of views, and the caption, "He protects her, always." The following morning, both of their studios released the same short statement, "We appreciate the love and understanding. Please continue to support us as we move forward, together." No more hiding. No more silence. Just two people who had weathered storms, walked through fire, and come out stronger, side by side. And in the hearts of millions of fans around the world, the message was clear. This wasn't just another celebrity story. It was a reminder that sometimes love doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to be real. The press conference might have ended, but for Kai and Tan Songyun, that day marked the beginning of something far more significant than a public appearance. The moment the cameras stopped flashing, they retreated backstage, finally away from the noise, the questions, the flashes that had followed them for years. The tension that had carried them through the day finally melted into quiet relief. Kai leaned against the wall, exhaling deeply, while Tan Songyun sat down beside him, her hands clasped together. "You did well," she said softly, her voice warm but weary. "You really did." Kai gave a faint smile, glancing at her. "I almost lost it out there," he admitted, "when you talked about silence being healing. I wanted to thank you right then." Tan Songyun looked at him, eyes glimmering with emotion. "You already did," she replied. "You came back. That's enough." There was a pause, a comfortable silence between two people who no longer needed to fill every space with words. For a long time, the world had reduced them to headlines, to roles, to assumptions. But here, in the quiet hum of the backstage dressing room, they were just Kai and Songyun again. Outside, the chaos continued. Reporters were still broadcasting live updates. Fans were outside chanting their names, holding signs that said things like, "Stay strong together," and "We believe in you." It was overwhelming, but for the first time in a long while, neither of them felt alone in it. Then Kai's phone buzzed. His manager had sent him the trending statistics, hashtag Kai Tan Songyun reunion, hashtag finally together again, and hashtag healing in silence were topping every platform, not just in China but globally. Their emotional press conference had reached fans in Thailand, Korea, Japan, even the US. Kai chuckled lightly. "We're viral again." Tan Songyun raised an eyebrow playfully. "You say that like it's a surprise." "After everything," he said, "I didn't think people would still care." She shook her head. "They don't just care about the image, Kai. They care about the truth." And today, they saw it. There was something about the way she said it, so calm, so certain, that grounded him. For months, he doubted everything. His worth, his purpose, his place in the industry. But with her beside him, everything started to make sense again. Later that night, as they left the building, a small crowd of loyal fans was still waiting outside in the cold. Without hesitation, Kai stopped, removed his scarf, and handed it to one of the young fans who had been shivering. "Stay warm," he said with a smile. The gesture spread like wildfire online. By morning, the video of that moment had gone viral with the caption, "Kai hasn't changed. His heart is still the same." Meanwhile, Tan Songyun's agency released a series of behind-the-scenes photos from the press conference, candid shots showing them laughing, holding hands, and supporting each other. The public couldn't get enough. Their chemistry, their quiet strength, it all felt like something out of a romance drama, except this time, it was real. But as the attention grew, so did the scrutiny. A week later, a controversial entertainment journalist published an article titled "The Truth Behind Kai and Tan Songyun's Reunion, Publicity or Love," questioning whether their emotional appearance was staged to promote their upcoming film. The backlash was swift. Fans defended them fiercely, pointing out the sincerity in their interactions, the trembling in their voices, the unguarded looks they shared, the raw emotion that no script could replicate. Sukai's studio initially advised him to stay quiet, but he refused. Instead, he made a rare move, an open letter posted on his personal Weibo. In it, he wrote, "I understand why people doubt. I've lived long enough in front of cameras to know how easily truth can be twisted. But what you saw was real. Pain is real. Healing is real. And so is the bond that helped me get through it." He ended with one simple line. "We didn't come back for attention. We came back to start living again." The post broke the internet. Within hours, it had over 5 million shares and a flood of supportive messages from fans, celebrities, and even directors. One comment that stood out came from Tan Songyun herself. She reposted his message with a quiet but powerful caption. "Some stories aren't written for the cameras, they're written in the heart." That moment sealed it. Whatever doubts anyone had left vanished. Their story wasn't about fame or damage control. It was about two people who had found their way back to themselves and to each other. As weeks passed, they started reappearing more often, attending events together, sharing glimpses of their film production, and even interacting casually during live streams. Fans noticed how natural they seemed. Sukai would often glance at her mid-sentence, and she'd smile softly, as if to reassure him without saying a word. During one live stream, a fan asked, "Are you two just friends?" Sukai laughed, hesitated for a moment, and said, "We're something more than that. But I'll let her define it when she's ready." Tan Songyun blushed, trying to move the conversation elsewhere. But the internet had already erupted. Clips of that moment spread across every platform, with fans calling it the softest confession ever. By the time their film trailer dropped a month later, the anticipation was unreal. The trailer featured scenes of heartbreak, rain-soaked reunions, and a haunting line delivered by Sukai's character. "I waited for silence to end, but it was you who broke it." Fans couldn't help but draw parallels between fiction and reality. The chemistry between them was undeniable, their connection palpable. Even the film's director admitted during an interview they didn't need direction. They were just being themselves. And maybe that's why the story resonated so deeply. Because behind the glamour, the fame, and the headlines, it was really about two people who learned that love, real love, doesn't always need to be loud. Sometimes, it just needs to survive. The night before the film's premiere, Sukai posted a single photo on his Instagram, a simple shot of 2 cups of coffee on a wooden table with the caption, "For every silence we shared." Moments later, Tan Songyun reposted it with her own caption, "And for every word we didn't need to say." The comments flooded instantly. "They're soulmates. This is beyond fiction. We're witnessing something beautiful." And indeed, the world was. Because for Sukai and Tan Songyun, their journey was no longer about redemption or comeback. It was about connection, healing, and the courage to be seen, not as stars, but as humans who dared to love openly, even when the world was watching. Would you like me to continue the next part, where their movie premiere becomes an even bigger turning point for their relationship and careers?